Incredible unveiling. Black CEO denied service. Discover the touching moment that changed everything. Andre Johnson stepped into the diner with a heart full of joy. He was ready to celebrate a milestone with his wife, Maya, and their 2 kids. The comforting smell of fried chicken and cornbread filled the air. This diner, with its bright checkered floors and warm family photos lining the walls, was a nod to his childhood, a place where family values thrived. But before this evening could launch into bliss, something unexpected happened. A waitress shot him a dismissive glance, turning her back with a flick of her apron. The laughter of his children died in his throat. He felt a tightness in his chest, and on his skin was the sting of humiliation. This wasn't just a rejection. It was a reminder of a world that often shunned him for the color of his skin, a weight he thought he had learned to sidestep. As the unsettling silence enveloped them, his kids looked up, confusion etched on their innocent faces. "Daddy, what's wrong?" His heart twisted as he tried to summon a smile, but it faded at their question. "A little hiccup, my loves," he managed to say, voice shaky. Maya squeezed his hand, her eyes brimming with understanding. The pain echoed through them like a bitter wind, stirring memories of past injustices. Andre gathered his thoughts, drawing strength from the love of his family. That night at the kitchen table, he opened up about that moment, sharing his feelings of anger and disappointment. "It's not just about us kids. It's about everyone who has faced this prejudice." The discussion grew raw and real. His children listened, eyes wide, absorbing the weight of their father's experiences. They spoke of classmates, moments of unfairness, and it sparked their resolve. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue." Fueled by shared anguish and a determination to uplift one another, the Johnson family organized a gathering at a beloved neighborhood cafe. They wanted to shine a light on their story, inviting others who had felt the weight of bias, too. The event drew a crowd. Laughter and stories flowed, sparking connections that pulled back layers of shame and sorrow. Through their narratives, the diner's owner, a man named Frank, stepped forward, revealing his own biases from years past. The atmosphere crackled with raw honesty, wrestling with hurt and the desire for change. Just when hope seemed to blanket the room, a powerful confrontation ignited between Andre and Frank. Tension twisted in the air like a live wire, both men grappling with their differences yet seeking common ground. "Respect starts here," Andre declared, hand pointing to his heart, to the blood that tied them. Frank's face softened. The passion for justice was palpable, but the road ahead hung heavy with uncertainty. As they stood before their community, Andre's mind whirled. Would this moment foster a new narrative, or would it split their town further apart? The weight of the question lingered, leaving the lingering echoes of pain and hope intertwined, aching for resolution. The next day, the sun peeked through the curtains of the Johnson home, casting a warm glow across the living room. It felt like a new day, but the remnants of the previous night lingered in the air. Andre sat at the table, a steaming cup of coffee in hand, lost in thought. Maya entered the kitchen, her hair pulled back, a determined look on her face. "Are you ready for today?" she asked, glancing at him. He nodded, though a flutter of anxiety knotted in his stomach. Today was not just about confronting biases, it was taking a stand for what they believed in. The gathering at the cafe had ignited conversations, and now they wanted to extend their reach into the heart of the community. They were set to attend a town hall meeting filled with voices longing for change. "What if they don't understand?" Andre asked, his voice barely a whisper. "They will," Maya replied confidently, placing her hand over his. "We have to trust that our message will resonate." The children joined them, bright-eyed and full of energy, oblivious to the weight their parents carried. Andre managed a smile, taking comfort in their innocence. They were the future, and he wanted to make sure they grew up in a world where warmth and acceptance reigned. As they arrived at the town hall, the bustling room was filled with chatter and energy. A soundboard set up in front of the crowd was a source of both excitement and trepidation for Andre. Everyone seemed eager to express their thoughts, but he wondered if they would truly embrace change. The meeting began, and residents spoke candidly about their experiences. Each story unfolded like a thread, weaving a tapestry of shared hardship. There was a single mother who faced discrimination at her workplace, a young man who had been racially profiled, each tale more heartfelt than the last. Then came Andre's turn. He stood up, the echo of his heartbeat pulsing in his ears. He took a deep breath and spoke from the heart. We all want to belong. It's about breaking down barriers. His voice quivered with emotion, each word carefully chosen. He shared his experience from the diner, the humiliation, but also the hope that the night at the cafe had provided. I stand here today not just for myself, but for everyone who has felt the sting of bias. We must learn from one another. Let us create a community where everyone matters. He paused, looking around the room, searching faces filled with uncertainty and anger, but also the glimmer of understanding. A murmur of agreement rippled through the crowd, and he felt a spark ignite, a collective energy ready for change. Then a woman in the back raised her hand. But how do we move past this? How do we change minds? She asked, her voice shaky yet strong. Andre swallowed hard. The question hung in the air like a heavy cloud. It was a query laden with hope yet fraught with the danger of unanswered fears. How could he provide an answer that would seal the cracks in their fragile bond? He looked back at Maya, who nodded encouragingly, urging him onward. With newfound strength he replied, it starts with conversations. It begins by acknowledging our mistakes and being brave enough to transform. As he spoke, Andre noticed Frank in the corner, leaning in as he listened intently. This was not just about him anymore. It was about everyone willing to confront their past and create a future together. When the applause erupted, it was a thunderous swell, echoing through the hall. Andre felt something shift in the room, a movement sparked by shared vulnerability and commitment to change. Could they build a bridge together? Just as the meeting began to wind down, a woman stood up once more, her eyes shone with tears. We have to do more than just talk, we need to act. Who's in? The room erupted into a flurry of chatter, plans forming, ideas sparking. Andre's heart raced as he exchanged glances with Maya, the excitement palpable. But so was the challenge. What would they create together? He took a deep breath, the promise of the future hovering like a whisper. They could do this, but what would be the first step? The meeting transitioned into a flurry of excitement. Voices mingled, and the energy felt electric as people started proposing actions. Maya squeezed Andre's hand, her eyes twinkling with hope. We can organize a community forum, a place where people can share their stories, but also listen, she suggested, her voice barely rising above the chatter. Great idea! Someone shouted from the back, and that single spark ignited a cascade of initiatives. Andre leaned in closer, feeling the pulse of change in the room. He couldn't help but think of how far they had come since that night at the diner, and how not too long ago, he had felt so alone in fighting for acceptance. We need teams. A voice called out, and soon after more hands shot up, eager to help. The enthusiasm was contagious. Andre glanced around and saw Frank, his brow furrowed in deep thought. The man had been a pillar in the community for years but had the reputation of being close-minded. Andre wondered what was going through his mind. Maya took charge, rallying those willing to organize. Let us break into groups. We can assign tasks and set a date for the first gathering. The room exploded with agreement, a hum of purpose overwhelming any lingering insecurities. As the brainstorming continued, Andre tried to process the whirlwind of ideas surrounding him. But amid the excitement, a nagging fear crept back in. Would they really stick to it? He caught himself worried again, all those what-ifs hovering above him. The meeting dragged on and Andre felt the crowd's energy shift from excitement to determination. With every suggestion voiced, he noticed more and more unfamiliar faces. People he had never seen before, coming together for a common goal. It felt incredible that they were all united in this fight against bias. But those feelings of doubt never fully faded. As he leaned closer toward Maya, he whispered, "Are we really ready for this? Ready or not, we're going to face it." "Together," she replied, her smile unwavering. Finally, the evening drew to a close, and one of the organizers stepped forward with an announcement. "Let us meet again next week and share how we've progressed." The room erupted into applause, and for a brief moment, Andre felt a knot loosen in his chest. As they walked out hand in hand with their children, Andre felt the sun setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. It all felt surreal and yet also grounding. This wasn't just a meeting anymore, it was a movement. "Did you see Frank?" Maya remarked, excitement bubbling in her voice. "I think he really listened today." Andre nodded, eyes focused ahead. Maybe he's starting to see things differently. But just as they approached their car, Andre heard an urgent voice call out from behind them. "Wait, Andre! Maya!" It was Frank rushing to catch up. Heart-pounding, Andre exchanged a look with Maya, both unsure of what was coming next. "Can we talk? I think I want to help." His heart raced. Could this be the turning point they were all hoping for? Or was it just another dead end? The uncertainty loomed large as Frank drew closer. And with every step, Andre felt both excitement and dread. Could this be the moment where everything began to change? Frank's breath came in short bursts as he caught up to them, a sheen of sweat glistening on his forehead. Andre could read the struggle etched on his face, an emotional tug-of-war that manifested in the crease of his brow. It was as if he was wrestling with more than just words. He was grappling with years of ingrained beliefs, layer upon layer that needed to be peeled back. "Maya, Andre, I know I haven't always been open-minded," Frank began, his voice shaky but earnest. "But something's been bothering me a lot lately. I've seen things change in our community mostly for the better. But I also know that fear often drives the narratives we hear." Andre held his breath, unsure of where this conversation was going. Was Frank about to shift the tide? Or was he stepping into deeper waters, pushing their fragile budding alliance to the brink? "I saw how the meeting affected people tonight. Seeing all those different faces, hearing their stories, it started to make me understand issues I've been ignoring for too long." Frank paused, and Andre could sense the weight of the moment. The sun dipped lower behind the horizon, casting long shadows as they stood in a circle, 3 lives colliding in an instant that could rewrite history. Maya squeezed Andre's hand, a signal of encouragement. The vulnerability in Frank's voice smoothed some of Andre's apprehensions. "What do you mean?" Maya asked softly, urging Frank to reveal more. "I want to help. I want to do more than just listen. I've been thinking about how I can use my position to bring about real change. I want to sponsor the forum, create a space in my office where we can meet. It's a neutral ground, and it shows I'm serious about this," Frank said, his eyes flickering with a mixture of hope and fear. Andre felt a sense of disbelief wash over him. This wasn't the Frank he knew, the one who had always been more comfortable in the shadows of rigidity. "Are you sure you're ready for that? It's not going to be easy. Some people won't trust it. Some may not even want to come," he cautioned, unsure if he was trying to protect Frank or himself. "I get that. I do. But I've seen what that fear has done. It's time for me to bridge that gap," Frank replied, his voice steadying. "I want to put my money where my mouth is, even if it means taking some heat from both sides." Andre let out a sigh, his heart racing. "If you really mean it, that could change everything," Maya's voice chimed in, delight evident in her tone. "It's a powerful step, Frank. We can help support that by getting the word out. People need to know someone with your influences on board." For a moment, everything felt possible. A single spark now had the potential to ignite a wildfire of change. But the voice of doubt persisted. What would happen when people found out Frank was involved? Would it push them away instead of drawing them in? "Let us set up a meeting this week," Maya suggested, her excitement infectious. "We can put together a plan and talk to those who've expressed interest." Andre hesitated, the flicker of hope clashing with the shadows of their reality. What if this was just a fleeting moment? What if Frank would back out when the pressure mounted? "Okay," Andre finally said, his heart still troubled. "Let us do it. But we need to be ready for anything." As they turned to walk away, Andre couldn't shake off the feeling that they were on the precipice of something monumental. The sun dipped below the horizon and the first evening stars appeared. A sky full of possibilities had opened before them. But as the car door closed behind them, doubt crept back in. What if the community wasn't ready for Frank, or for change? The question lingered like an unanswered prayer, echoing in his mind. And with that uncertainty, the looming storm of resistance whispered on the wind, reminding them that every beginning has its challenges. Could they really navigate this new path together? Maya leaned back in the passenger seat, her mind racing. She gazed out the window as the streetlights flickered on, casting an orange glow over everything. It felt surreal, almost as if nothing concrete had truly changed yet, despite the weighty promise hanging in the air. Frank's words replayed in her head like a mantra. I want to help. Andre gripped the steering wheel, his jaw tight. The car hummed softly as they navigated the quiet streets toward home. He glanced at Maya, searching for reassurance. You think he really means it? He finally asked. I want to believe he does, she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. But there's always the what if. What if we're pouring our hearts into something that won't happen? A heavy silence settled around them, filling the space with crumpled doubts. Andre's thoughts drifted to the community, what they would say, how they would react. It was one thing for Frank to propose change, but quite another for them to trust him. The next day unfolded like a slow morning fog. They gathered at Maya's small apartment, transforming her living room into a makeshift war room. An old whiteboard propped against the wall bore the scrawled ideas and hopes they had shared, now looming like specters. Frank arrived, his demeanor a mix of determination and apprehension. I called a few people I know, he said, lifting his chin as if defying an invisible challenge. They want to meet. And they're okay with you being part of it? Andre questioned, skeptical. I think they want to see if I'm serious. If this meeting goes well, they might just trust it. But it's all on me to show them. Frank carried an air of unexpected bravado. Maya felt a swell of excitement. Perhaps they weren't standing alone in this after all. But that excitement was tempered with the reality of the challenges ahead. They began to map out their agenda, focusing on key issues and real stories. Andre glanced towards Frank, who was scribbling ideas. He looked different today, less burdened, more like a man who might be ready to lay down his past. What happens if it doesn't go well? Andre posed, voice steady but laced with concern. Frank paused, his gaze drifting. Then we start over. We try again. Because we have to. The conviction in his voice reignited a flicker of hope in Andre. With each passing hour, ideas turned into action plans. They established an outreach approach, each of them taking on different roles. It felt right, like a stepping stone was being laid before them. But still the voice of doubt lingered at the edges, soft yet persistent. As weeks went by, flyers were printed, and notice boards displayed announcements. They met with community leaders, sharing Frank's commitment. Rumors buzzed, both praises and skepticism flooding in. It was a whirlwind of emotions, and the trio found themselves swirling in the aftermath. Then one evening a message arrived. It was a terse email from a community group leaking with apprehension. Frank's name isn't what we need. He's part of the problem. Tension surged through them. Andre's heart pounded. He scanned Frank's face, looking for a crack in this new facade. But instead, he saw resolve, a flicker of the very fire that first ignited their initiative. We fight it, Frank declared, his voice booming. I knew it wouldn't be easy. If they want to challenge me, bring it on. I'm ready. That night, as they prepared for the upcoming forum, an intense determination filled the air. The state of their community weighed heavily on them, but so did the possibility of change. Maya felt the intensity heighten, a collective heartbeat of purpose. But deep down, a chilling question echoed within her: was their collective strength enough to pierce through the wall of mistrust? The night wore on, and together, they stared at the whiteboard now filled with scribbles of both fear and hope. Tomorrow would reveal everything. Would they embrace change? Or would they retreat into the shadows once again? The next morning was crisp, the sun barely peeking over the horizon. Maya, feeling the weight of expectation, brewed coffee and paced her small apartment. She glanced at the clock, each tick resonating in her chest like a countdown. Today was their chance to confront the doubts head-on. Frank arrived first, his face a mixture of nerves and resolve. Ready for this? He asked, adjusting his tie. It was a small gesture, but it felt monumental in the context of what lay ahead. Maya gave a quick nod, her heart racing. Andre walked in moments later, carrying a stack of papers, each flyer crammed with hopeful faces and testimonies of their community. These are the stories we wanted to share, he said, laying them on the table. The stories were filled with heartbreak and resilience, snapshots of lives intertwined by struggle and hope. This was what mattered, what drew them all together. They stood in a circle, a tight-knit unit against a world that felt far too big. Frank took a deep breath. Whatever happens today, we need to show them that we believe in ourselves, he declared, a spark flickering in his eyes. Maya could feel the surge of determination. Perhaps they really could prove the skeptics wrong. They arrived at the venue, a community center buzzing with people, voices overlapping in a chaotic symphony. As they stepped inside, the atmosphere shifted. Frank squared his shoulders. The three of them walked toward the front, heartbeats syncing in silent alliance. It didn't take long before the meeting commenced. A panel sat before them, stoic and scrutinizing. Maya noticed the mixed expressions around the room, some eager, some skeptical. There was a palpable tension, a collective intake of breath as Frank stepped forward. Maya, Andre, and I are here not just to talk, he began, each word measured and firm. We're here to listen. To really listen. He scanned the crowd, searching for responses. Maya felt a thrill at the gravity of his approach. The first few minutes passed, with Frank detailing his vision for change. As he spoke, she could see people leaning in, listening intently. But just as hope began to bloom, a voice piped up from the back, piercing through the optimism. Why should we trust you, Frank? Your name carries a shadow. Maya felt her stomach drop. The room tensed, conversations spiraled into whispers, and the weight of the past loomed over them. She looked at Frank, whose expression remained steady, lips pressed together in determination. This was the moment they had been building up to. Because I understand what it's like to bear that burden, Frank replied, his voice steady despite the turbulence in the room. I've made mistakes. I've seen the darkness. And you know what? I've learned. I'm here to make things right, to stand shoulder to shoulder with my community. A murmur ran through the crowd. Doubt hung thick like smoke, but beneath it lay a current of curiosity. Maya could see eyes searching, grappling with the possibility of a different reality. As the discussion unfolded, Maya poured her passion into sharing stories from their neighborhood. She spoke of resilience, determination, and the transformations they had witnessed despite adversity. Every word she spoke felt like a small piece of a larger puzzle being revealed. But the underlying tension never fully faded. It flared again when someone challenged Frank directly. How can we believe you want change when you've been part of the problem? The question hung heavy, an anchor threatening to pull them under. Frank's gaze hardened, but Maya quickly stepped in. Because change is messy, she urged, her voice rising amid the murmurs. It takes courage to face what's been done, to acknowledge it and to choose something new. The room went silent. Faces turned, some confused, others thinking deeply. She felt the shift. It was fragile, but it was there. A small ember of connection sparked. As they wrapped up the meeting, Maya looked around. They hadn't erased the doubts, but they had planted seeds of conversation instead. And that was something. She felt buoyed by the tiny victories, yet also the simmering tensions still present. Later that night, as they walked home, the weight of the day settled heavily on them. Do you think we made a difference? Andre asked hesitantly. Frank shrugged. I think we started one. That's enough for now. Maya glanced up at him, her heart swelling with gratitude for their shared mission. But uncertainty gnawed at her. Would the community truly come together? As they approached her apartment, phones buzzed. There it was, another message. Frank's name glared back at them, this time paired with yet another warning. Change isn't just hard. It's dangerous. Are you sure about this? Maya's heart skipped a beat. She turned to Frank, fear mingling with hope. What if this is just the beginning of something bigger? Their eyes met, and in that moment, the uncertainty felt electric. What lay ahead loomed like a shadow, but its shape was beginning to change. What they didn't know was just how deep the fight for trust would dig. Maya woke up the next morning with a sense of urgency that prickled at her skin like a cool breeze. The warning from Frank echoed in her mind. Change isn't just hard. It's dangerous. The knot in her stomach twisted tighter, and it took her several minutes to shake off the feeling as she brewed her morning coffee. She had been thinking about how to tackle the next step, to keep pushing forward despite the tension from the meeting. As the day unfolded, she met with Frank and Andre at their usual cafe. They sat at a small corner table, the air thick with the aroma of fresh pastries, yet the atmosphere felt heavier than usual. They spoke in hushed tones, strategies forming and reforming as they tried to navigate the aftermath of their encounter. I thought we made some progress, Andre said, swirling his coffee. But then I remember that last look on their faces, somewhere still skeptical. Everyone's dealing with their own battles, Maya replied, her voice steady but filled with concern. People want proof, not just words. We need tangible results to show them we can be different. Frank nodded, his jaw clenched as he leaned back in his chair. A mix of frustration and determination painted across his features. I know that. But how do we demonstrate that? It's not something we can pull from thin air. Just as they began to brainstorm ideas, a couple at the next table caught Maya's eye. They were engaged in a lively discussion, hands flailing as they animatedly debated something that seemed important. Maya's brow furrowed. What if they could use stories? Real people from their community to share their truths. They needed a way to connect those who had doubts with those who felt hopeful. Guys, she said, excitement igniting in her voice. What if we host a community gathering? We can invite those from the meeting to share their experiences, while highlighting the changes we're all striving for. Like a showcase? Andre asked, a flicker of interest sparking in his eyes. But how do we convince everyone to join? Invite them with transparency, Maya replied, leaning forward. Let them know it's a safe space, a chance to voice their doubts as well. We need to hear each other and build trust through understanding. Frank sat in silence for a moment, considering it. It's not a bad idea, he admitted. But the risks if there's a backlash, then that's just part of it, Maya interjected, hope sparkling in her eyes. We can't expect to change everything in one go. It's about starting the conversation, opening up possibilities for collaboration and healing. If we approach this right, people might just begin to see us as allies. They agreed to move forward, devising plans to organize the gathering, which they would promote through flyers, social media, and community boards. As they left the cafe that day, the sun hung low, painting the sky with hints of orange and pink. Days passed, and the excitement leading up to the event swelled alongside the nerves. Each night, Maya found herself restless, thoughts racing. Would anyone show up? Would they even listen? On the day of the gathering, anxiety hummed in the air. The community center was decorated with tablecloths and banners made from the same flyers they shared before. But the vibe was different. There was a buzz of expectation, whispers of curiosity. Maya stood at the entrance, heart pounding as she welcomed each guest. The room began to fill, a kaleidoscope of faces that mirrored the diversity of their neighborhood. She caught Frank's eye, and he gave her an encouraging nod, his earlier tension replaced with quiet strength. But then, just as they were about to begin, a familiar voice cut through the chatter. I still don't trust this project. You don't have to listen to them. It was someone from the back, someone who had challenged Frank before. Maya's heart sank for an instant, but it quickly turned into resolve. She took a deep breath, ready to stand ground not just for herself, but for the voices seated in the room. Could she turn this into a moment of connection? Could this challenge lay the groundwork for true transformation? The night was still young, and the battle for trust had only just begun. The question loomed. Could they rally together to craft a brighter future, or would their fears tear them apart once again? Maya felt the weight of the room shift as all eyes turned towards her. The challenge had just been thrown, the air teetering somewhere between hostility and hope. She opened her mouth, ready to respond. I get that you feel unsure. Trust isn't given freely. It has to be earned. Her voice wavered slightly, but she leaned into the vulnerability, aware that it could resonate with others. Let us give each other a chance, she continued, scanning the crowd. This gathering isn't just about us speaking. It's about hearing your concerns and ideas. We need to work together, but that can only happen if we start from a place of understanding. A ripple of murmurs spread through the room. Some people appeared to shift uncomfortably on their feet, while others nodded slowly, eyes softening a touch. Maya could see Glenda, an elder from the community, lean in closer, her expression cautiously intrigued. The man who had voiced his distrust crossed his arms stubbornly but remained silent. Perhaps he was weighing her words. Maya seized the moment. Let us start with you. What do you need to feel comfortable with this initiative? He blinked, taken aback by her directness. You really want to hear my thoughts? I thought this was a setup to sell me a dream. Absolutely, she replied, her heart pounding. This is our dream too. But it has to be built on trust, and that means having the tough conversations. The audience shifted from simple observers to engaged participants as he spoke. I've seen projects come and go. Promises that never went anywhere. What makes this different? Before she could answer, Glenda stood, raising her hand. We're here because we want things to change. I've been in this community for over 50 years, and I've felt the same frustrations. I want to believe in this. She paused, glancing around at the faces. But we have to put in the work, all of us. Maya could feel the tide beginning to turn. The conversation blossomed as others chimed in, sharing their fears and hopes. It became a dialogue, almost like a dance, as opinions whirled around the room. Her heart lifted with each shared story, yet doubt still hovered behind her encouragement. Was it enough? Could these small exchanges lead to real change? She leaned on the table for support, her fingers wrapping around the cool surface, grounding herself amidst the rising emotions. A woman spoke up, her voice trembling. I've been hesitant to trust because no one else in my family has. We've always been let down. It's hard to imagine hope when you've faced disappointment. It's okay, Maya replied gently. We have to start somewhere. Healing doesn't happen overnight, but right now we're creating a space to begin. The energy in the room shifted again as people began to clap. It was tentative at first before growing louder, fueled by the collective desire for connection. Maya felt as if they were on the brink of something transformative. Yet, just as that thought settled comfortably in her chest, the doors behind them swung open with a bang. A figure stepped in, silhouetted against the bright lights, an unfamiliar yet commanding presence. The room turned to look. Is this the place where they're trying to rebuild trust? He called out, his voice dripping with skepticism. Maya swallowed hard, her breath hitching. Who was this newcomer? And what did he mean for their fragile discussion? The stakes had suddenly risen, and she could sense the tension crackle in the air. A fresh wave of uncertainty washed over her. Was this man about to tear apart the progress made? Or could he somehow become part of the solution too? As the crowd's chatter intensified again, Maya braced herself. The challenge had just escalated, and she wasn't sure how much longer they could hold on to the fragile hope that was beginning to unravel. What secrets did this new arrival bring with him? The man stepped further into the room, his presence like a dark cloud covering the growing sunlight of possibility. Maya felt her heart pound louder, each beat echoing the doubts that began to creep back in. The electric tension in the air was tangible. She took a deep breath, trying to harness every shred of confidence she could muster. Who are you? She managed to ask, her voice steadying even as her insides twisted in tight knots. Name's Derek, he replied, his gaze scanning the assembled crowd with an unsettling scrutiny. I've heard whispers about this grand initiative of yours. Color me skeptical. His words hung in the air, laced with skepticism that was hard to ignore. Maya could feel the atmosphere shift. She caught the glances shared among the audience, hesitant but curious. Would they be drawn to Derek's challenge or would they stand firm with her? She gestured to the chair across from her. Derek, please. Let us talk. We want to hear your thoughts. With an air of reluctance, he sauntered over and took a seat, folding his arms back across his chest with a defiance that felt almost protective. She could see Glenda's brow furrow in concern, and felt the need to keep this fragile moment from splintering. I know change takes time, Derek started, his tone a mix of challenge and genuine inquiry. I just don't want to see the same old cycle of hope and disappointment. You say trust has to be earned. How can you possibly do that? Maya glanced around, eager faces not ready to back down. We all have experiences that shape our views, she offered gently. Like Glenda said, we've seen this community face struggles for decades. But this isn't just about us. It's about every single one of us working together, sharing our past so we can create a better future. Sounds good in theory, Derek replied, his expression unmoved. But you know what goes on here. I'm not the first to bring these concerns to the table. A hesitant voice broke through. No, you're not. It was a young man with weary eyes. But maybe it's different this time. Maybe we can make it different. Maya felt her pulse quicken. The collective murmurs of encouragement bounced back to her, a testament to their determination, a flicker of hope igniting again within the room. Look, Maya pressed on, it's easy to focus on the past failures. We can't deny them, but we also can't let that define our future. We're here to listen, to admit when we stumble, and to take the steps needed for real change. Derek shifted slightly, his frown deepening. And what if someone pulls back once more like they've always done? What makes you think people will really show up to build this trust? Maya met his gaze, unflinching, because we won't let it die. Nothing great happens without risk, and right now maybe we're all afraid but we're also resilient. A murmur of agreement rippled through the audience again. Slowly, Derek's expression softened. Perhaps he wasn't entirely closed off. Suddenly, from the back of the room, a loud crash echoed. A woman, frazzled and frantic, burst in, her face flushed. "I was looking for you all," she exclaimed breathlessly. "There's been an incident at the market." Maya's heart dropped as she exchanged concerned glances with Derek. What else could shake their fragile gathering? The air was electric again, but now infused with urgency and impending chaos. Fear gripped her as she realized the conversation had moved to the sidelines. All hopes of building trust now felt threatened. Would this derail everything they had started? And in the depths of her worry, one question loomed larger than the rest. What awaited them at the market? And how would it challenge everything they had just built? Maya's heart raced as she processed the woman's chaotic announcement. The room's energy shifted from conversation to confusion, whispers igniting like fireworks. Faces turned toward each other in search of answers, but uncertainty reigned where trust had only begun to blossom. "What happened at the market?" Maya demanded, her voice steady despite the swell of anxiety within her. "There was a fight between folks from different sides," the woman explained, her breathing heavy as if the words themselves had burdened her. "There's fear brewing. People are being divided even more." The crowd shifted uneasily, faces paling as the reality sunk in. Would this incident undo all the progress they had just made? "Let us stay calm," Maya urged, her voice a thread holding the room together. "We need to go there now. This isn't just about words anymore, it's about action. We can't let fear create more distance among us." Derek stood, looking as stunned as anyone else. "Are we really going to try and fix this? Just like that?" "Absolutely," she replied firmly. "We have to show our community we're different. We have to listen, but we also need to advocate for a way forward." Without wasting another moment, they began to gather their things. Plans had shifted from ideas to immediate action. Glenda led the charge, her sturdy voice echoing with support. "If they see us standing together, maybe they'll realize we can unite against conflict instead of each other." The crowd murmured agreement, bolstered by a renewed sense of purpose. Maya felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps this was the catalyst they needed to rise above fear and stand together. Arriving at the market, the tension was palpable. People were gathered in small pockets, voices raised in anger, while onlookers stood frozen, uncertain. Maya stepped forward, determination in her chest. She caught sight of Derek at her side, a little more resolute though still skeptical. "People," she yelled, raising her hands to quiet the crowd. "Listen up. We can't allow anger to consume us. Everyone here is part of our community. We need to stand united." A hush fell over the crowd, but the tension still vibrated in the air. Maya saw familiar faces in the crowd, friends and neighbors now standing divided. "I know some of you are scared. I know some of you think this can't change, but right here, right now, we can choose to put our differences aside. We have to work together." Derek stepped forward, finding his own voice. "I've seen the hurt in our community firsthand. But if we can come together today, in support of one another, maybe we can prove that fear doesn't define us anymore," he added, surprising even Maya with the honesty in his tone. The brewing anger began to alleviate as some voices offered encouragement, reminding others that they could indeed choose a better path. "Remember when we cried out for justice?" A young woman in the crowd raised her voice, recalling moments that had united them in the past. "Can't this be just another step in the right direction?" The question hovered in the air, provoking murmurings of agreement and reflection. Maya seized the moment, gently probing the audience further. "How can we transform this fear into action? What can we do to ensure we uplift each other instead of pushing one another away?" And with that, dialogue spilled forth. Individuals began sharing fears and experiences, voices melding into a symphony of vulnerability. The realization that they were all grasping at the same fabric of community, a shared humanity, began to stitch the crowd back together. As they navigated the discussion, Maya felt each shared story strengthen their collective resolve. while the energy in the atmosphere shifted from friction to understanding. After hours of dialogue, the crowd began to form a plan. How about we create peace circles? Someone suggested. Meet regularly to talk about our issues instead of letting them fester. Maya beamed, relief washing over her. Yes, we can turn this tension into a series of discussions, and we can also include real action surrounding local events, hosting outreach. Instead of division, applause erupted, sparking the beginnings of unity. One step at a time they had started to bridge that chasm of distrust. As they wrapped up, Maya noticed that even Derek's walls were softening. He stood shoulder to shoulder with people he had once viewed as adversaries. "We're not finished yet," he said, his voice firmer. "But what I witnessed here today was bigger than us. It was powerful." Maya could feel her heart swell with pride. They had rallied together, courage igniting within each person that day. With a deep breath, she stepped back and realized that this moment wasn't just about her or Frank, it was about the entire community taking a stand against division together. The sun dipped low, casting a magical glow over the market. It felt like the world had taken a breath, a pause before the next wave of anticipation washed over them. In that stillness, they had become more than a community. They had become a family united by understanding and hope for a future built on trust and collaboration. This was the moment, a crux of transformation. And now, as they looked towards the horizon, they could feel the weight of possibility, shimmering and alive, ready to be seized. As they walked away from the market that day, Maya felt a certainty. "This is just the beginning," she whispered to Frank and Derek, her heart full of promise. Together they would rally again, and every loud cheer that echoed from those streets would be a tribute to resilience. The dark moments would not define them. Their bravery would echo far beyond the horizon, showing all they had endured and overcome. Could they change everything? Yes, they could. And this would be a story told through generations, a legacy of love, acceptance, and unwavering connection. This was just the start of their powerful journey together. Now it's your turn to make waves. If you felt the intensity of transformation today, you need to subscribe now so you don't miss any future stories that ignite hope and strength. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help this message spread far and wide. Comment below with your reactions. How did this ending inspire or impact you? And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see the strength in unity and the power of change. This is the moment to show your support.